All right, early edition of Lulz today. We're bringing our old pal Awesemo back on the show. It's been too long since we've talked to him. And of course, since then, the sim wars have heated up. We got all kinds of stuff going on over at Stokastic here, what he has been up to in the DFS streets. It's Lulz. Let's do it.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us. All right, Alex Baker, aka Awesemo. Alex, how we doing, buddy?
What's up, guys? Thanks for inviting me on the show here. I had to check my balance on DraftKings because I'm like, did I win a Million Maker? And I just didn't know about it because I thought that's usually when you invite people.
It is. Yeah, you know, we make some special exceptions. You still have not won a Million Maker, right? Is that correct?
No, he won one.
I won a like high stakes one, which I don't feel like it counts. Yeah, it was like 2,500 people, and that's not as cool as beating 200,000.
No, yeah, we need the full RBX 88 here from you. But Brian, how are you doing today? Early lulls today. We're having to dust the cobwebs off of our eyes here. How are we doing?
Great, fantastic. Yeah, I had some internet issues, but I think we're resolved and we're good to go.
I think we are good to go. And yeah, Alex, I don't know if we've talked to you since Awesemo, the site, changed its name to Stokastic. I think I mentioned it the other day on a show, or maybe it was a few weeks back, where I know it was a polarizing name change at the start. And then like the more I've sat with it over the past, however long it's been, it's really grown on me. So kudos to you guys having the courage to pull the trigger on that name, because now I really like the name Stokastic.
That's awesome, man. It's good to hear that it's been settling in.
Did you at first were you like, I want this company named after me, or did you not care at all?
It wasn't really my preference, but
okay.
When I was starting a company with Tom and Eddie, they're like, we gotta capitalize on this brand equity of Awesemo. So that was kind of the logic, and then obviously it evolved a lot since then, and we wanted to have a name that reflected more of the current and future of the company.
Was it true that you were in a battle with Tom whether to initially name the site Awesemo or the Kennedys, and you guys had just rock, paper, scissors for it?
The Kennedys, that would have been a pretty good one.
It would have been. So I really can't remember the last time we talked to you, but a lot has changed over even at Stokastic. Not only the name, you guys rolled out your sim product recently. We did talk to G.O.A.T. He came on when that happened. But what has that been like for you? Just this thing of what was something you were doing behind the scenes for so long, like Brian, and now a lot of it is available for public consumption.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting evolution. I think a big pivotal moment was when Nerdy Tenor kind of announced to the world that he was doing this kind of stuff. And was that on Lulz? Like, I don't quite remember.
It's on ours and a couple other shows, I think, actually. Okay.
Yeah, I think he did Blender's Pot. He did a few different spots, yeah.
I think at that point, the cat was out of the bag, and I think, it's definitely a change in the industry. Like, more sophisticated tools are available. And I was just like reflecting this morning because I knew this might come up on the show. I was like, I remember when I started DFS and like the top dog was Sahil Sud, and his advantage was like, this was before you could upload lineups or edit lineups with CSV, or like I didn't even I might have had a really basic optimizer at that point, but I was kind of hand building like everyone else. And then sites like Fantasy Cruncher made it available to be able to like really like streamline that process, and that allowed me to compete with guys like Sahil Sud. So it's like this is the new thing. Like a lot of pros have been doing it, like especially guys who can code, like have kind of built up an edge where they can really streamline their process and have an advantage over the average guy. And now some of those tools that they may have been using behind the scenes are more available, and like a big part of it is the speed, where like it's not just having a sim but being able to execute it in a short amount of time. And when I go on the Stokastic sims, it's kind of like an amazing technological feat to be able to like take 5,000 lineups in a minute, tell you exactly how they would rank based on the play-by-play sims.
How involved were you in the development of the Stokastic sim product?
I've always been more involved in the sports of it. So like the NFL sim, like this is kind of the same sim that's been powering our products for a while, like SAP stacks and there's other things like optimal rates and all that. So I've been I was very involved in the creation of the sims.
And how much of like would you say when someone buys a sub for the Stokastic sim product, like because this is what we were talking about with Brian, and he was talking about the Saber Sim one, like how similar is what is publicly available compared to what you've been using for your own play for a long time?
I think it's pretty similar, and if you go on the post contest sims, like I think a really good indicator is like how are different guys' lineups rating on the post contest sim, and like you can see my lineups are always rating out as plus ROI. Obviously,
yeah.
I don't like take that as being like, oh man, I'm the best player in the world, because there's a lot of bias like when it comes to like rating the lineups of people who are using the tools. But that's also like checking out other sims, like DFS Sweat for MMA is a tool I really like, and it's always interesting to see how your lineups like stack up, like based on other people's methodology.
Did you make your own fields before? Like make your own field and run lineups against it, kind of the way the sims work now?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's been a really good strategy for a while. And like I'm not a coder. I just did everything in Excel, and I think it's been possible for just someone who knows a little bit of Excel for a while. But I think for a lot of guys, they don't want to like really develop the technical skills. They want to focus more on the sports. And
that was always a question about what you were doing specifically. I figured you were more so doing the work on the like prior to, where you're looking at the mass data and then how do lineups, like more regression based type of thing, and then rank lineups. So like in the NBA, were you making fields too in Excel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think NBA, like there's some other factors, like the lineups you're going to have at the end of the night aren't necessarily the lineups you're starting with, right? So I think NBA, like it's like a really useful tool in every sport, but like how you execute it as part of your strategy can be a little bit different, like NBA, where you might want to plan the late swap.
Yeah, well, even the last 20 minutes before lock, it's pretty tough in the NBA to use Excel and do this type of thing. And I mean, you're gonna use way less than 10,000 lineups in Excel and pull this off in the NBA. And also, like, basically what you're trying to do in the NBA is run it with like 10 minutes left or something, or maybe 15 minutes left, and hope nothing changes, and then late swap properly after that. Like if you're going to use this process, I'm not too sure. I mean, I guess nowadays, since you guys have like dedicated software providers, you could pull it off in the NBA much easier. But like, I mean, you're at like, this is kind of another benefit of doing your own work as opposed to outsourcing, is if there's an injury, 3 minutes before lock, you could just go in there really quick, change the guy's projection up, guess, move him up 6 points, and then press enter on your optimizer or sim or whatever. That's probably not enough time to do any realistic simming at that point. And if you're not, you're outsourcing it, you're at the mercy of the provider and hope they do it really quick. And in the NBA, although last season wasn't too insane, but it happens all the time, those last 15, 20 minutes are chaotic for, LeBron James isn't going to play. Well, that changed the whole damn slate. So, like, I've got 3 minutes to make an adjustment for all this.
I did like the change they made in NBA. So they announced the starting lineup 30 minutes before the tip-offs, unless they're the Trailblazers.
Right.
Because that's like kind of like put the time on when the news comes out in a lot of instances. So like for those 6 p.m. games, you're often getting the news at 5:30 or I'm Central Time. So, and then for the 6:30 comes out at 6. So, like, it's kind of more seldom that I think the news comes out like 5 minutes or 10 minutes before lock. But I mean, a lot of times the news comes out after lock, and then you're still having to react to it. So I think that's what makes the NBA fun and interesting. And I know there's some guys out there that are more trying to focus on the ball element of it and having success. So
Does his name rhyme with Petteytheft?
Yeah. So I think there's different ways to approach it.
I mean,
then I think one thing is you can always like go to the post contest sim and see how your strategy worked that night based on all of the news at the end of the night.
It doesn't matter if you know ball or not. Like if a guy gets ruled out, you got to do something about it. Like no matter what happens. And I don't think they were following that 30 minutes or more rule super strictly. I hope they do crack down on that a little bit. But yeah, like even the 6:30 games, let's say they're released from 35 minutes early. Well, you got 5 minutes to adjust for that. The NBA, I don't know. I don't think it's that fun to have to sit at and worry about these guys getting scratched every night until 9 Central. You know, like but I could understand for some people that being enjoyable. Like those dudes who like diving into the waivers deep every week, the first 6 weeks in the NFL season. Like there's people who enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, I think NBA is a sport where you have to really fully immerse yourself in it to have the most success. So that's been kind of why I've been playing less NBA in the last couple of years, just because like it's hard to find time for anything else. And then like if you're in a relationship or married, like usually the time you're late swapping is when your significant other is wanting to hang out. So I think it's a tough lifestyle to maintain of being an NBA grinder.
Brian, you did a quick overview on some of the sim stuff last week when we had Leone and Levitan on, but Tyler asking, what do you mean by making fields? Because this goes into the various types of sims.
Yeah, you could watch last week's, but like you're just trying to predict within a reasonable approximation, like what the lineups your opponents would make. And like not specifically, I know for sure Alex is going to play a 5-3 stack of Colorado Rockies or whatever, but like that you're guessing, 12% of the field will have Rockies stacks or something like that, or 40% of the field will have Blake Snell. And so like, okay, now I have 40% Blake Snell lineups with these guys, and it'll look something like the field. And then you sim lineups against that field for like let's say Pete thinks, whatever, Justin Fields lineup is going to be good this week in the SPY. Let's because Pete loves Justin Fields. Let's run it and see how it performs against this fake field. And then you just do that over and over until a bunch of lineups look good against this fake field. So like you have to get your fake field right. You have to get a lot of this stuff right. And a lot of it's guessing, but it's how you measure what matters. And with all the interactions that you can think of and put in your sim.
I'm glad you explained what that was, because I was thinking making fields was like when you look at all the plays you could make and then you don't do any of them.
But Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you guys coping? Two of the world's biggest Chicago Bears fans. You guys are fans of quite possibly the most dysfunctional franchise in all of professional sports.
He likes the Lions.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're benefiting from that, but I like the Bears too. I go to games like most seasons, and I hope they just set Fields free.
No, it's perfect for DFS. Believe it or not. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like everyone hates Fields now. Like he's gonna run for 120 and 2 touchdowns in one of these games.
Yeah. And he was like the winning quarterback like 3 weeks in a row last year.
Yeah, the first week, everyone's like, this is the worst quarterback in the NFL when he did that. And then the second week, they're like, he'll never do it again. And then the third week, they're like, Justin Fields is going to go high in best ball next year. This guy's the future.
Look at you, Brian, putting on your I know ball cap. You have
Yeah.
even like shades of Leone and Liam talking about Dalton Kincaid, your homerism shining through there with Justin Fields. I love it.
I know my commenters.
Alex, what have you thought of like the overall, well, two part, there's like the Sims discourse, a lot of which we've been having on here, but also just the idea of how people who are using these for the first time might be using them wrong or not understanding exactly how to leverage them. It was something you could hear Levitan and Leone were kind of concerned about last week when we were talking with them. How do you kind of feel about this whole thing now that it's out in the wild for anyone to interact with?
Yeah, I think it'll take some time for people to figure out how it fits into their process. I think that if you just go on and like use the contest generator and then the lineup simulator, then you're gonna have a much better starting point at the very least if you're just using that as your full process than any other tool in the past. And then there's a lot of different ways you can incorporate the Sims in your process. Like if you're a ball guy, then you can change the projections you're running the Sims with. Or if you're a game theory guy, maybe you want to look at the contest field that you're using. I mean, there's a lot of different levers to pull there.
Yeah. Are you as doom and gloom as you probably heard Brian on here with kind of like the sim edge, drying things up? Like, where do you fall on that spectrum of like Brian to Petteytheft as far as like the edges in DFS?
Yeah, I think we're still waiting for the dust to settle a little bit. I think that DFS has always been a game where you have to raise your game continuously to stay ahead of the curve, and this is just another example of that. So I think that there's a lot of guys out there that want to be pros in DFS right now, and it's always been a situation where like the strongest players survive and the weakest players like lose their money. And I think like there hasn't been as much turnover in DFS pros recently, but like if you go back to like 5 years ago, like a lot of the names that you saw at the top like don't really play DFS anymore. So I think it's just up to every individual to make sure they're doing what they can to make their best lineups.
Do you find yourself kind of looking for the next thing? I know we talked to like Ricky D, or you hear someone like G.O.A.T being like, hey, there's a shelf life on how long I'm going to play. Obviously, you've had a lot of success on the business side and the content side as well. Like, how are you thinking about that as far as like what portion of your living comes from DFS play exclusively?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm in a fortunate position where I've already made a good amount of money in DFS, so I'm not feeling a ton of pressure to continue to rack up the score. So I am kind of looking at the next big thing where like it could be more something that getting in at the like ground floor, like a lot of us did with DFS and riding the wave up. I'm kind of tempted to like get more into NFTs, to be honest. I feel like everyone's super negative on them. Like you can get in, like I as more of a business kind of thing more than an investor, I guess. But I do think there's a lot of potential in stuff like NBA Top Shot that is currently at a low point. So it does seem like there's other things, like I know Martin Papagates is jumping really hard into AI. And I'm sure there's a lot of other guys out there that I know Chess is okay. He went into venture capital after DFS. Yeah. So I think you learn a lot being a DFS pro about how to like build and scale up a business. And once you've kind of done it, you're kind of looking at how else could I do that?
Interesting. I mean, I agree. Like, I think that's sharp.
John says, Alex, we got to pump his Top Shot bags. How many Luka Doncic cool cats do you still have, Alex?
I have one. I
okay.
did realize a big capital loss on the Luka sales. And I have a lot more unrealized losses that I could.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, we sure do.
And
Brian
I
and I still
anything.
sitting on.
just
Yeah.
just a straight pure dunk of just letting everyone cash out while I waste all the money.
Dude,
I love the idea of getting into something else. Like, even if like you're, I mean, Stokastic probably doesn't want to hear this, but like if you're like a young guy thinking about playing DFS full time, like that's tough, man. Like it's tough out there. So I mean, like I think the angles are like you got to make a better sim, like a better using AI maybe or something like that. Now, of course, if you can get to that 0.001% of brain players out there, I think it's. I wonder what you guys think. What's more realistic? You could become a 0.001% brain player, or you can make a better sim than Stokastic.
Oh, I mean, brain player for me for sure.
Okay. Of course, if Pete thinks that, he's already thinks his brain is this big.
No, how big would I have to think my brain is to say I could make a better sim than Stokastic?
I think that would be easier.
Yeah.
Or how about this? Let me rephrase it like this. I think more people mistakenly think that they can become a brain player when they're just not. It's not going to fucking happen. Like,
yeah,
not going to happen. Sorry.
I think, when I think of what a brain player would look like in 2023, I think of someone that would like kind of make their own projection model based on their reads more than someone that just has the reads and builds lineups without like using any of the tools available.
Yeah. And I think too, probably Brian, like I could, the leaps I could make if I just dedicated all of my time to learning how to code and researching on sims, like I could probably go like, from 0% to 90%, like pretty fast. That last 10%, like closing the gap on like that would probably take me ages. But you're probably making the same case of like, you could get up to 90% knowing ball, but then those last small percentage increments to get you into that top 1% or 0.10 is really, really hard.
And it's easy to lie to yourself about that last 10% in ball knowing. And it's not in sims. Like your fucking sim won't work. You press the button, your code didn't work. But with ball knowing, you're just like, oh, I got unlucky that he only got 25 minutes and I projected him at 34. That type of thing. It's really easy to convince yourself that just like think about call-in shows, sports call-in shows that we listened to growing up, and the amount of dummies who call into that and think they know so much like that. It's like a disease. So like people that will think they know so much and that they're like, well, Petteytheft does it, so I can do it. And it's like, not going to happen, homeboy. Sorry. Like, there's going to be one, but that's one out of 100,000 people who try it.
Yeah.
But
I did want to ask you
on the code too. We lost Alex.
I lost Alex.
He's like, I'm offended. I don't like what Brian's saying.
No, I wanted to pull this one up because Alex, you mentioned that you still do a lot of your stuff in Excel. And I was wondering, like, with the rise of ChatGPT and all of these tools for learning coding, like, is that something you're intellectually curious about, or is that just a rabbit hole you don't have that much interest in?
Yeah, I think I've been interested in it. Like I started trying to learn Python, and I was finding ChatGPT really is a huge tool where you can just copy paste your code in there, and I'll tell you why it's not working. So like that really helped me make up a ton of knowledge deficit. And now I'm more interested in Python for like more of an NFT thing than a sports related thing, because I feel like I already have stuff in Excel that it kind of does what I want, and then you can use these tools like the Stokastic sims to also kind of accomplish the same goals. So I haven't found that time is a huge factor in how I can make more in DFS, other than I guess just spending less time having to play the slate, which is a little bit of a risky business because then you're not doing as much research and stuff.
Brian, does it surprise you? Like, obviously, I know you, when we had Petteytheft on, you're like, dude, you could supplement your knowing ball, big brain stuff with sims and expedite it and make your process even better. Does it surprise you when you hear that Alex is, you kind of just like, hey, it's not broken, I don't need to fix it with the Excel stuff?
No. I think it makes sense. Like, if you're still doing fine, like, why change your process? I probably do the extreme too much. Like, I change mine too often. So like I totally get it. And still with Petteytheft, like, why would he change? Why would he listen to me? You know, so like him not getting into Sims. I mean, I still think I don't think he knows enough about Sims and how customizable they are, and they could take what he knows. But then he'd have to trust a coder and stuff like that. So maybe it's not even worth it going down those roads.
He's apparently willing to trust anyone who will fill out a form on his new site these days. He seems like a trusted guy to me, Brian.
ITN him. How do I get my hands on those projections, big guy?
Yeah.
He called me like a dirty simmer or something. He refuses to give.
The thing that confuses me about Petteytheft is, he's all like, I'm not throwing shade or anything. I feel like he says he's like a brain ball player, but then I look at his exposures and they're not much different than a lot of the other pros. So when I've really dug into it, I've had trouble figuring out exactly what angle he's going for, or maybe I was just looking at his slates where he didn't really go hard on a specific read or anything. But I'm not saying he's any less of a player, but I haven't played NBA a ton in a while either, but I wonder if he's a lot of it's talk.
Oh, it's luck.
But isn't that his claim? Is his brain is so big that he is naturally coming up with the same things that your simulations are coming up, or he's coming up with those independently, just via a different path.
Yeah, I mean, like whatever he does seems to be working. So as I was saying, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but it's really tough to figure out like how to reconcile what he says he does with the lineups that he's putting in.
I think you're allowed to throw shade. This seems like a pretty explicit shot across the bow. You don't need overcomplicated Sims to win.
Almost like he's challenging him to a fight.
Yeah. Dude,
is this our next boxing match?
Man. Like,
Awesemo versus Petteytheft in the ring?
I want to challenge someone that I have a shot at actually competing against, not someone like Petteytheft, who's a pretty good athlete. Dude, yeah. He was like, we did this event at Wrigley Field for one of the sites. It was like a live final or something. He was like slamming homers left and right off the batting practice. I was like making contact once in a while. So he's got some talent.
Is this right for your email here? Is it alex@awesemo.com? I'll go ahead and get you subscribed up here. Alex.
It is like the problem with the brain over Sims thing too is like, what about some of us that aren't that smart? Like, I don't know if I have that much faith in my brain.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Meanwhile, while we're taking shots, Pete looks better than I remember. I don't know. This is like the most backhanded compliment. Was I a disheveled mess before? How are you doing, Clairvoyant?
Backhanded.
Alex, do you still get excited to play DFS? Like, do you get jazzed up for new slate, for sweating, or are you just like so numb to the whole process now?
I'm definitely trying to focus more on the enjoyment part of it. So I've been focusing more on sports that, like, the thing I find can be a grind is like when you really have to immerse yourself in the world to compete. Like MLB and NBA, where you have to be at your computer from, certain times every day. I'm more focusing on sports that have less of a time pressure, like golf, MMA, NASCAR, NFL, stuff like that. And I find that it's a much easier lifestyle. And the other benefit is just like when you're like spending so much time playing daily sports, there's not a ton of time left to like work on your skills. So having a little bit more balance there has been good.
I'm trying to find this. Did you guys see the Petteytheft big brain meme someone made? I can't find it.
No, DM it to me if you have.
I was trying to find it and then we could show up, but I couldn't find it. It was in someone replied.
He did have this tweet too after the announcement of the site. Sims without brain projections are useless. Brain without Sims are good. I like reading that in a caveman voice. I think is definitely Sims without projections useless. Brain without Sims good.
I will say this though, if you want to get a couple thousand people sign up to your site, your beta site really quickly, offering staking and giving away your projections is a nice way to do it.
I will say there is, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, and Alex, I'd actually be curious about like the feedback from the Stokastic audience in general and the response, because you do get people saying like Sims are ruining DFS, not even from like the edge perspective of just being like, it's not as fun anymore. Or I feel like, what I got into DFS for, it's not the same. The playing field isn't the same. Like what has been the overall feedback from maybe more of the hand builder-esque, Stokastic subs?
Yeah, I think that like everyone has their own process. I think that the Sims appeal more to people that already have been using tools like optimizers than they would like for a hand builder. But at any rate, I think that tools like a sim, like I think one thing a hand builder could do to like make their process really sharp is start off with the sim lineups and then sift through them and find the ones that they really like, and even make a couple tweaks if they want to have them reflect their um, own opinions and the plays they want to make that week. So I think it's kind of a new thing that everyone's trying to figure out how to incorporate their tool into their process. But I think there's a lot of people that they want to be able to compete more like the pros, and I think the perception is that a lot of the sharp pros use these sims, and it's true. Like, and I think that a lot of us weren't saying it until Nerdy Tenor let the cat out of the bag, and then like the amount of effort it would take and domain knowledge to like create the sim is way too much for average person, and this allows them to bridge that gap.
Well, that's what I've like, because for since talking to Brian like over the years, like the Sims were always like this black box thing for me, and how hand builder friendly they've been has actually been a really welcome surprise and something I'm legitimately enjoying. And I have been able to see how many bad lineups I would have otherwise have hand built that I'm now able to test and fact check against the Sims. And now I'm making better lineups. And it's like, to me, it's actually made DFS more fun. One, because I'm not losing as much, but two, it is just a fun element to be able to test assumptions. I think it is really fun too. Like I used to always come on and being like, playing a 40% own defense is bad. And then it's like, you see some of you guys with the Sims doing it. And you see, Leone now looking at their Sims being like, hey, it's not as bad as we thought. Like it is fun to have actual math challenging these assumptions that we used to just kind of shoot from the hip.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like it's not only like that you can like kind of test the lineups, but like it creates really interesting results that you can research, kind of like what you're alluding to, where I was looking at one of the highest ROI lineups on a showdown slate the other like one of the slates this year, and one of the highest rated was like running back captain, like two quarterbacks and one running back and one wide receiver to the flex. And I'm like, how would anyone ever like come up with this lineup by hand? It makes no sense. But then like the Sims factoring all the stuff like the salary of each player and like maybe other wide receivers do well, but you can't like fit them into your salary cap and stuff like that, that it'd just be impossible to like ration by your brain.
Well, that's the thing, because I had those same thoughts. It was last year, I'd be reviewing my lineups in the Spy, and I remember that week you won with, I think it was the Raiders Onslaught, and you had like Mac Hollins and Carr and Adams and Jacobs all in that same lineup. And I was like, I would have maybe have considered doing this in like the Thunderdome or like a 35 person. I was like, what? How did you know that this could work in there? And my guess, it's a similar thing to you, where you look at the sim results and it's grading out really well, and you're like, well, this is kind of interesting. No one else is going to do this. If the math is telling me it's good, let's go ahead and throw it in here.
Totally, yeah, exactly. Like you end up with some lineups that are really interesting. Like one that I found the interesting result, like a lot of the onslaughts where you stack like 3 or 4 players with your quarterback, that works better in like a smaller field than a larger field, because you don't have to get every player right. And if you get like 2 out of 3 of those 3 that you have in your lineup to have a big day, then like, and your quarterback is going along with that, that just gives you a lot more combinations with that quarterback that could go right. So yeah, you can like learn a lot of interesting stuff with The Sims.
Yeah.
I think someone getting up to like 90% of a brain player doesn't help you. But using a sim, like, and having no brain at all, it helps. You know, I think Pete, you're probably using it exactly optimally for you too. Just that making all your same lineups and then testing them, seeing how they do, and then eliminating makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. What kind of contests are you playing these days, Alex? Like saying like the NFL lobby. Are you playing everything? Are you focusing on anything in particular?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, I was having kind of a rough year. And I was like on Roto Tracker. I feel like the best way you can see if your stuff is good is you look at the finished distribution. And like my finished distribution was very solid, but I was just like down big for the year. And then that all changed in week 2, where I just had like two slates in a row that like really went my way. So now I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go a little bit harder on NFL now.
Yeah. Well, that's like the Bryant thing, right? It's like, you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater. You kind of scale it up when you're doing good, and you got to pull back, even though like the same variance is going to apply, right? Whether
Yeah.
you're running hot or cold, but there is still some like psychological factor and bankroll management factor where you're like, I don't feel like scaling up my play when I'm taking a
Yeah.
bath every week.
Exactly. And one of the really tough elements of DFS right now is like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but like, I feel like the hardest level are the contests like between 200 and 600 or whatever, or 200 and $1,000. And then once you go above $1,000, it gets way softer. And then like, obviously the swings are like crazy if you're playing like 3K contests and stuff. And yeah, so it's like, the possible like money you can make is pretty good in those, but then you have to deal with all the variance.
It is interesting you say that. I noticed that playing out in the best ball streets even too, where it's like some of the like best ball mania drafts or even like the $5 puppy drafts would be like so sharp as far as like constructions and all this stuff. And then you would do like the $500 bulldog ones and you'd see people doing like really weird stuff. I think my guy Easy from the Deposit Kingdom Discord has talked about that a lot too, that the higher stake stuff can be much, much softer than people anticipate, that the amount of money you're putting in doesn't necessarily equal more ball knowledge.
Yeah, and the rake is a lot different too. So if you
Yeah.
look at the 3K contests, I think a lot of them are raked at 6%. I'm trying to pull up the one from tonight. Yeah, the rake is like less than 6%. So then you compare that to like 15, or I guess 222 is 10%. So that's like 4% difference right off the bat.
Yeah.
So if you had to predict the future, and it's just concerning like making money at DFS, not having fun or anything like that, like how would you rate, DFS 5 years from now? Like very likely, sort of, about the same, less likely, or in dead. Like we get to pick something around one of those. Like, how do you see? I know you part owner of a DFS content site, so maybe not the easiest way to answer, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways it could go. Like the one concerning thing is I feel like the current DFS giants are finding other verticals where they're like succeeding more, like sports betting, which like that is gonna make DFS like get a little less attention and love. But like if you look at other things like poker games got a lot tougher, and like some of the sites like reduced the house fees significantly, like especially in games where it was tough to beat. And like one of the like I played on Poker Stars, and I was like grinding their VIP status for like 150K in a year, and like I was making like probably a third of my money through like actual profit and 2/3 through their like VIP program. So it's like a lot of it comes down to like what the sites do and how they adapt. But then the other thought I have is like I feel like there needs to become more of like a sports betting DFS hybrid, like the pools. Like that would be a development that I would think would be bullish for pros that maybe have interest in both DFS and sports betting. The one thing that it's tough to do is to make as much money sports betting as DFS. And like it's funny because I see these guys on Twitter bragging about making like 100K in a year in sports betting, like, which is awesome. But like that's like 10% of what you can make if you're a crushing DFS player or less. So it's like the money you can make in DFS is so much higher in sports betting, and you don't have to deal with like limits and stuff. So, and like like the people you're betting against in sports betting are the ones controlling your ability to bet. So that's a really tough place to see a ton of money as a participant.
I think too, that's what makes it hard. You were mentioning like lower rake at the higher contests. If you are playing that kind of volume, it's so easy to justify like subscribing to any sim tool, whatever, all of them, because the percentage of your play that it represents is so minuscule. And then I think that's where it's hard for maybe the mid to lower stakes hand builder, where the rake in their contest is higher. The amount these subscriptions and services cost relative to what they're putting in play could be like close to 50% of like their weekly action. And so the calculus becomes a lot harder. And I'm sure a lot of people in my Discord feel this way too, where it's like, I would love to pay for these tools, but I literally can't justify it based on my volume. And like, how can I ever expect to be profitable if I'm spending so much just to be at the level of resources that everyone else has?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's a big issue because like in the ideal world, you charge like all of the like high stakes pros like subscribe to Stokastic, and it's like we're charging them like I think our platinum was like 100 and something a month, like, and these guys are getting like thousands or more of value out of the subscription, but it's like you can't charge everyone a different amount. So that's a really tough element of all this. But I think one thing you can do is, there's deals where you can get some of the stuff for free. Like right now, you can sign up through Stokastic, the owner's box, and get the Sims for free for a certain period. So you can take advantage of stuff like that. You can watch the shows where you can kind of get some of the like insights from the Sims without like having the subscription yourself. And I think like the ideal situation is like to create an economy where you can kind of start at a small subscription and work your way up to as you kind of get better at your skills. So, but yeah, it is tough because there are a lot of people that get a lot of value out of the tools that are willing to pay a lot for them, and then there's going to be people that aren't going to be able to justify those prices. So it's really hard to find the right balance.
I think it'll work itself out, Pete. Like, once you build this product, and I could be wrong, what do I know? But like if I was to own a company and I had this product and I wasn't getting enough subs, I'll go with price. I would come up with ways to get people to use it. Like, you don't just get rid of it, right? So like it's going to work itself out to a point where it makes sense for them and the user at equilibrium eventually, and there's enough competition to drive those prices too. So I think the prices will work itself out, and also I think like the user base kind of works itself out too a little bit. To like just to say there's this cohort of users who's going to sign up for these Sims who otherwise wouldn't have Sims. A certain percentage of them are going to get lucky and bank, and when they bank, they're going to keep using the Sims, and then this will probably repeat, and maybe it'll be, if the Sims are good enough, that number will increase. And then leaving aside the guys who were going to sign up and always sign up and already made money at the DFS and are just, using it to make their play a little bit better. So like, I think that's going to be a portion. And also like in my, I think it's bad for the profitability of the average DFS player, this whole thing. So like, I think that's part of it too, is like, there's like just this cohort of people who are going to get lucky. It has to happen. Like there's like an outcome where like, sure, like maybe everyone who signs up for the Sim sites runs like dog shit. None of them bank, right? And then they don't keep paying for it. And then the owners of these sites don't lower the price.
Yeah.
Like, it's just never going to happen. It's more likely that they've built shitty Sims. Yeah. And like, that's not good, like for the user to use them. I think that's highly unlikely, but that's what I think. not
Well, I think comments like this, and I don't know exactly what this is referencing. You're not entitled to winning. We need losers. I think it's short-sighted from an ecosystem perspective, right? You want the people who are losing to be enjoying the experience and having fun. And part of that, I would argue, is being able to feel like they have access to some of these tools that other people. And if that process in the entertainment equity they're getting, they'll come back to the table every week. It's the same way like in the old school poker movies. You see the fish come to the table. You sandbag a little bit, make them think they have a chance, and then you get the bigger score. You slowly bleed them off. You don't want to take all of their money in one hand and then they pack up and walk home. So I don't think you can just say like, we want losers coming and bleeding money, because they don't come back. The ecosystem dries up. And that's why I think it is important on the lower levels to have accessible tools, to have things that make this fun. We can even talk about the content stuff, chasing the GOAT. Like we literally need shows like Chasing the GOAT that make playing DFS attractive as a lifestyle, as an attainment thing, because that gets more people wanting to play. So Alex, do you want to break news? Is Chasing the GOAT coming back for season 2?
Yeah, I would like to say that it is, but I think they're looking for someone to pick up the show, and we haven't gotten any. Well, I haven't been really in the loop at all, but I assume it hasn't been getting any traction because I haven't heard about it. But it seems like a missed opportunity, because I feel like some of the guys, like, they need to see like a Big T have success, so that they feel like they have their champion like that plays like they do. And like I don't think too many people will be watching the show and being like, I'm gonna be like a professor of math that like whistles and dominate everyone with like that kind of stuff. But going back to what you're saying, I think that like there can be like fun things even if you don't win a ton of money. Like I remember I had one bullet in this live final, and Chipotle Addict and Papa Gates had 8 each, right? So
Yeah,
like I like with my single bullet, I finished like 20th, and they all the 16 entries are under me, and I was like, hell yeah, like suck it to the man. But yeah, I think if there's a perception that all these pros don't know sports and they're all just math nerds, like I think that could play out to be more of an exciting narrative for an average guy. But yeah, right now it doesn't seem like there's any sort of narrative kind of that. I don't know if people even really care about the culture of DFS if they're just throwing in a few entries here or there.
That's a theme on this show for years, where we want better content, just creative things, more hype, just like Matt's saying in chat. Like just that best ball 50K live draft looked more interesting and fun than anything they've done, DraftKings has done for DFS in a long time. But I do think we've entered this new paradigm or whatever of increasing efficiency in the market. And like, what do I know? But I think they should go more like a poker model where they identify certain players who are good volume players and just give them rake back, like contact them directly or something and give them rake back. And then also the perennial losers, which I think they're already doing, but like, I mean, and maybe they make more money not doing any of this. I don't know. But like for the good of the market, from my perspective as a player, that's what I'd like to see, where they just giving these guys free entries, these perennial losers, whatever, trying to, make them way less minus EV. And then the heavy rake back players back in the old poker days who kept the games going and the popularity going, feed them rake back, and the petty thefts, you don't get shit. Give them the regular, Onyx tier stuff or something. But like that's what I would do, and they kind of were doing that towards the end of my poker career in the 2010, 11, 12 era. And maybe they hire someone from one of the poker sites. They might know better than me, but that I would go in that direction to kind of equalize the efficiency of the market a little more from just giving back that way. It might just make their product just not worth doing though. So like, I don't know if there's a way to fix it.
I have some
also, go ahead.
Some ideas. I mean, like, okay, I think one of the big problems with DFS is like okay, like you can enter 150 entries, but if everyone does that, then like it's all pros at the games, and there's like kind of imbalance. So it's like if you lower the entry limit for each person, it could be better for everyone. Like I don't think that's like considered a huge problem by the sites. That's the issue. But the other thing is, I feel like if they could have formats that involve more of a poker style, like where you have to be there playing the game instead of just uploading your lineups, stuff like best ball. And I think like draft.com had like those contests where you just kind of draft DFS lineups, and I think Underdog they have that as well.
Yeah,
So
the battle royales.
Yeah. So if sites put a greater emphasis on products where you have to actually put in effort, even if you're a good player, I think that would create a much more sustainable situation.
I don't think they're. I wish, yeah, that low and smooth out the prize pools, but then they don't have the 100K to first, and is that what's bringing all the people in? So it's a tough game, which I'm sure I think they probably think about most of this stuff anyways too. But if you could lower the payout to first, smooth it out a little bit, low, and I think you said like less than 150 max too, right? I think Alex there, yeah. I think that would be smart. Yeah, like they basically got rid of the 20 max in MLB. I don't know if you noticed, in favor of 150 max $3. That's like not better for you, you dummies.
Yeah,
you know, and late swap is not better for you. But some of these things the user doesn't want, and some of the and I guess you could say the same thing about the 100K to first uneven payouts. They don't want it. So
yeah. In going back to the thing, Brian, like you were saying about, I thought the $50,000 best ball contest was cool too. And, John talking about like back in the day at live finals, they'd hype it, Joey Ingram interviewing people, stuff like that. Like I would have been like the target demographic to watch content from a 50K high stakes best ball draft. And yet, like I saw one photo of like them around their little podiums there in San Diego, but it's like, why wasn't that live streamed? Why wasn't there a draft board? Why weren't those guys mic'd up? Why weren't you having a, on the field reporter going, asking a question after the picks, having guys talking shit to each other? Like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes things fun and interesting. In the same way, I watch Negreanu and Polk play heads up. I don't even play that much poker, and I wanted to go play heads up poker after watching them stream, that thing. So there is that element of, like we say it all the time, more media coverage, etc. Awesemo, I do have to ask you chasing the GOAT, your besties with Big T. Big T has been on this incredible, like Rick Pitino-esque recruiting tour across the DFS landscape. Did he try to recruit you over to Run Pure Sports? Because this man apparently can sell over a steak dinner.
Yeah, I mean, like hanging out with Big T is always a good time, so I can understand how he has that gravitational pull for sure. But I think, yeah, I mean, he's getting some good guys like JBC, Mark. I really like that guy. I've hung out with him at the live finals a bunch. And yeah, hopefully they have success over at Run Pure. I feel confident about the Stokastic team, that it's the premier team, so I'm not really worried about those other guys.
Pete, I can't help but notice he didn't answer your question.
He didn't.
It sounds like Big T did try to bring him over.
It
wasn't a direct no.
He said this is his offer. He's like, first of all, we'll give you a ton of giblets. Secondly, we'll rename Run Pure Sports Run Pure Awesemo. Would that have done it for you? Because your own site is no longer named after you. Run Pure Awesemo.
I just want to be invited to his big party every year in Kentucky or whatever. So
yeah.
But no, I'll answer the question. I haven't gotten the call.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think I'd be looking for that kind of opportunity.
Have you guys like considered doing less sims and like more just giving out winners?
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, that there might be something to that, so I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. You should just say we give out winners. That's all you just say. We give out winners and sims.
Yes, the order doesn't matter in which
So,
they come.
Does it sound like, Peter, you hearing the same thing I am? That it sounds
Mhm.
like we already know the answer to which team Alex is on, Ship It
Yeah.
Nation or Run Pure Sports.
Yeah, we do ask that question near the end of every show. You got to take sides. Run Pure Sports, Ship It Nation. Sometimes the answer to this question has been incredibly revealing when some of our previous guests have actually recused themselves from answering the question. What is your answer to this age old question?
Oh man, that's tough to pick between Big T and Hoop. It's like it's just sad to see that kind of bro breakup, to be honest. So
I know.
It really broke Pete up.
It's like when Blink 182 broke up, and
Yeah.
it's
But
like, are you gonna
they
pick
did
Tom
get back for a
DeLonge,
reunion tour. If there's enough money, they do get the band back together for a reunion tour.
Well, I'm holding out hope for a bro reunion. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
ShipItPure.com.
There you
The
go.
reunion tour.
The one thing I know I was trying to get you to do a boxing match with Petteytheft, but I think Tambo in here had mentioned that you once on the show, you have now mentioned twice Nerdy Tenor letting the cat out of the bag, and we've had other guests who have been upset with people coming on this show, spilling too many industry secrets. Is it actually Nerdy Tenor that you would like to fight?
I don't know. I would probably lose because I can't punch that guy. He's too nice. So, I think I would have a sing off versus him since he's a tenor. That would probably be how we battle.
I mean, can we make that happen? I mean, if there's an event that DraftKings should sponsor, it's you two, I don't know, it's at the Orpheum. I don't know where it is, but just some giant, well-known concert hall. You two each get 10 minutes to give us your best solo performance, and we all judge the
followed by a ping pong match. They have to definitely, because I don't know if you watched Nerdy's interviews, guys, but he's got a ping pong table in his background. And everyone knows Alex is a stud ping pong player. So
I forgot to mention that actually I've been pretty involved in the new Major League table tennis thing, because I'm homies with some of the table tennis guys in Chicago, and one of the guys I know is the coach of the Chicago Wind. So I've been helping out with that.
Are you doing a bid, or is this true?
No, it's true. I created some models for table tennis, and we're trying to win the league and stuff. I enjoy it. It's I hope table tennis can take off in the U.S.
Wait a second. So you are a shadow GM for a professional table tennis team in Chicago. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it's this startup that's trying to make table tennis a big thing. I'm not as involved as I'd hope, because I'm you gotta let me come in and help with the gambling side of this, have it on DraftKings, on all the sports books, have DFS and all that. But,
talk about knowing ball. You'd be an insider for that. We'd be like, who's taking a dive this week, Alex?
I don't think I'd bet on it because of ethics, but
that's fine. We will.
I think table tennis is a fun one to bet on because each match takes 15 minutes, so it's a really fast-paced bet. And then you have the whole team thing where it's there's 21 points for each team that can be scored, so it'd be cool to have a spread between the teams and stuff.
They'd be smart to make that the backbone of their entire launch. Just try to make it so gambling friendly, and just try to get DraftKings to put you on their site. That'd be sharp as hell.
What goes into a table tennis model? What kind of advanced analytics are there even available for this?
Yeah, I think my model's not super sophisticated, but the main insight is
shirt color
is just looking at every point instead of just the results of matches, where a match is usually 50 points, and the percentage of points that each person wins is more revealing than the overall winner of the match. So that's a big part of it. And there's other ways to kind of get an advantage.
And so the purpose of this is so you're coming up with hopefully better ways to identify skill, and then you're going to use that to maybe scout new members that this team can add to their squad. Is that how this is working?
Yeah, I mean, most of the action happened before the draft, which was a month ago. Yeah, I helped a lot with the strategy. It was like very similar to just the fantasy football draft or something, to be honest, where like they don't have different positions, but like they have these requirements. Like you have to have a female player, you have to have 2 U.S. residents, and like U.S. residents ended up being a huge factor because there aren't that many good ping pong players in the league that are U.S. based. So it was fun.
Wow, that is incredible. Alex spending his free time building ping pong models is just—it's too perfect. It really is too perfect.
I'm just picturing him talking shit, like sim that bitch.
I'm just hoping to get called up to play on the team eventually.
That's right.
You never know.
Do you ever make a big show of like setting your calculator down and then grabbing the paddle? You're like in Goodwill Hunting, writing the math equation on the board as the janitor after, just hoping someone will notice you.
Yeah, exactly. I actually I'm really leaning into it because my official title on the team is Chief Data Nerd.
Oh, you got the CDN. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Ping pong players making fun of you, calling you a nerd. That must feel really good.
The ping pong guy. That's incredible. Alex, let us know if there's ever a ping pong event. I would like to attend that. That sounds like a grand old time.
Yeah, I think the closest team to you would be Princeton.
Okay.
They have like each city is hosting one event. So like the Chicago one's in November. Princeton has a team. And then I think there's 8 different teams. So there's 8 different regions represented.
Man, maybe I might have to hit up Princeton, see if they're looking for a CDN over here. Yeah. Maybe more of a hand builder's ethos. Yeah. All right. Brian, any final words here before we get out of here?
No, thanks for coming on, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, as always, a pleasure catching up with you. Obviously, checking out Stokastic. Anything else you'd like the people to know about?
Yeah, I guess I'll just I know like people don't like the touting, but I'll put on my tout hat for a second, and I just think like, I saw a post from Adam Scher like a while ago that's like just knowing the plays is like the table stakes of DFS. And I thought that was really enlightening kind of way to think of it. And it's like you want to be ahead of the curve on all these different things and make sure to try it out like the Sims and see how it could fit into your process, because I think there's a ton of value there, like being able to evaluate lineups the same ways that pros like I would.
There you go. All right. We appreciate you guys. As always, thank you for accommodating our early start time. We'll be back next Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. By the way, Brian and I, we've had a lot of the Sim Bros on. There's good people on both sides. Big T, you still have an open invite to come on the show here if you want to give the other side of, or maybe Petteytheft after launching his site, maybe he has some more things to say. But I think, Brian, we've been wanting to get the other side of the Ship It Nation debate. We still haven't heard the Run Pure side. That's correct, right?
Yep. Yeah. Big T. We're gonna call him out on Twitter, I think, to get him on. Finally. Well, he's been on the show once or twice, actually, I think, but
it's been a while. A lot has happened since he was last on. Thank you again to Alex. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy your Thursday nights. If you want to watch our Thursday night football watch party over on the Ship Chasing channel, we'll be live at 8:15 p.m. Eastern tonight. Lord Reeves will be swinging by. We got giveaways. We're going to have pick'em slips, all that good stuff. That kicks off at 8:15 p.m. Mute the TV, turn us on. We'll see you then. We'll be back next Thursday for Lulz. Peace.